This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with Vinyl Gentlemen, and we're glad to say we're joined with Ben McGivern. How are you, Ben?
I'm great. How's you?
All is fantastic. It's been nice and sunny in Belfast today. Probably a bit like yourself in Scotland. We take our sunshine when we get it.
We've had a summer. It's now pouring the rain. Back to sunny Scotland over here.
It definitely is. If you want a suntan, either go to the sunbeds or go away to Spain or something like that. You're not getting it in Scotland or
You
Belfast.
can't, you can't even get to Spain now. So sunbeds it is.
Sunbeds it is. I think I'd burn in them as well.
We call it a council tan.
Council tax. Aye, one arm out the window when you're driving along and then sit in the passenger seat on the way home to get the other arm done.
Correct.
Firstly, obviously, I want to thank you for obviously, we always put it out there to people to contact us for interviews. And obviously, you contacted us a couple of days ago on Twitter. And to be honest, without obviously you contacting us, we never knew who you were. And I guess that's the sport of boxing. Sometimes you can't know everybody. But obviously, doing a bit of research and things like that, probably, I guess probably more people have done a bit of research on you. Probably see, you probably what they think the adverts like Ron Sales, exactly what it says in the tin. No boxer's life is plain sailing. I think one of the articles you done was you weren't born with a silver spoon in your arse.
Correct.
It doesn't come easy to a lot of people.
It doesn't, no.
What age did you start out boxing then?
I started at the age of 5.
5. So that's what, nearly 30 years ago.
Correct.
It's making you feel old now, isn't it?
Oh, it doesn't have. Well, you're only as old as what you feel, eh?
It is. And what got you into boxing then? You were boxing at a barn boxing club, isn't that correct?
I was, yeah, yeah. It was a friend of the family. Got the boy I was running about, and it was his mother that started to take the younger brother to the boxing, and because I hung about with the boy, his mum says, "Why don't you come along?"
Losing you a bit there, Ben. I was losing you a bit there. The signal was sort of
Sorry,
dropping on me.
that's my boy.
So I was sort of losing you a bit there. Sort of the signal was sort of dropping a bit. So you were sort of saying it was like a friend of the family got you involved in boxing.
It was, yeah, a friend of the family. A friend of the family's the boy that I hung about, his big brother. He was into boxing. He was really good, and the younger brother was getting cooked by the mother, and it was the mother asked me would I like to go along with him. So I went along to see what it was like, and I took a liking to it.
It's I guess it depends on sort of Belfast probably in ourselves is a much like Scotland obviously certain areas you go into it's sort of ingrained on you from an early age. It's sort of defending yourself. People get involved in karate or boxing or more days now kickboxing things like that. It's more to defend
Yeah.
themselves in certain areas and things like that. And I guess Scotland would probably be very similar, but a lot of people took to the sport for obviously just for the fact that it's something to be good at.
Well, the boxing club that I went to, it was run by a man called Rab Bannan, Robert
Mm-hmm.
Bannan. Now, he done it to take young kids off the street to give them a chance in life.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I'm from in Scotland, they weren't anything about for like now you get sports centres that give you excuse me, gives you like football and stuff like that. Back then it wasn't. So Rab at the time was take people off the street and give them the chance to say, this is a sport, a friendly sport. You can either like it and then you can compete, or you can just come here after school. So it was a friendly family, Jim. So
Mm-hmm.
it was open to everybody, and Rab opened the doors to everybody, and he welcomed them with both arms.
And,
That's
and
why he was loved. That's why he was loved so much.
and obviously Rab himself obviously passed away last year, and obviously I think we put a post up at the time, sort of the condolence of it. He's like
Yeah,
anybody that's probably involved in boxing in Scotland knew who Rab was, and I think he was given awards and stuff.
He was, yeah.
It's, I guess,
He
obviously
speaks for,
when you think on it, nearly 30 years, like for the likes of yourself, obviously, and continuing on with boxing, there's a lot of memories and stuff there, and probably kept you away from more harm than anything.
well, that's very true. He did. Unfortunately, through the older I got, it's obviously took a wee dip, but we'll get to that in a later bit. But again, Rab always put to you, what I learn you, what I teach you, keep it in at the gym, don't take outside. If people try and attack you, then defend yourself, all means, but don't go that wee bit further and take it too far. It's all about defending yourself, yeah, but just don't obviously take what Rab teaches you outside and use it for different reasons.
Yep, and like it's fair to say, like you look at your amateur career, I think obviously the record's right and things are online. You fought 100 times an amateur and won 83 of them. So for somebody obviously coming through boxing, you were seeing a lot of success in boxing. But is it probably fair to say sometimes you probably nearly felt invincible? You're winning so often that
it wasn't. Well, back then it wasn't. It was Rab drilled it into you that if what I teach you, what you listen, you will be good at. You can only bring yourself on. I can only teach you what I know. And if you take that on board, you using the ring, you'll be unbeatable. And it's very true. There's one thing about Rab. Rab always taught us, protect yourself at all times. And the barn are known as warriors. We've got a heart of a lion. We've got a chin. We can take a punch and also we can give a punch. Now, that itself, Rab took, I'm sure, I might be wrong, but 12 days into the Western Districts and 12 days come out with gold. I think it's the only club to do it. So that speaks for itself. This is the kind of things Rab teaches you. It wasn't you go in and right, put a pair of gloves on, you do this and do that. Rab is old school. Rab taught you from the bottom right to the top. Mm-hmm. And it speaks for itself who he's got, well, who he had,
yeah,
and his gym.
And obviously probably one of the most, high profile one was Ricky Burns.
Yes. He brought Ricky Burns up from a child and look where Ricky is now. And
he's still going as well too.
He is still going. Ricky, the older Ricky gets, the younger he gets.
Definitely is. Would you would Ricky, obviously I know you're going to be proud of Ricky obviously coming through and everything else, but when you sort of look at your own career in boxing and things like that, do you sort of look at Ricky and go, that could be me? I could have been, because you obviously in the amateur days you were sort of matching him, as you go, you were doing everything together and you sort of look at it and you go, I could have been there alongside Ricky.
Yeah, I do. I look at Ricky and knowing that when I was younger, I trained alongside him, I sparred with him, I learned a lot of him, and still from this day, I see him now and again in the gym. He still pops in and out to local gyms. I got on well with Ricky, but again, looking at what he's done in life, it does annoy me because if I didn't put my boxing on hold, then who knows? I'm not saying that I could have achieved what he's achieved, but who knows what I could have done.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't even mind if you were a one-weight world champion, two-weight world.
Just being a world champion is something, isn't it? It's every boxer's goal. It's every boy's dream. And to become that's amazing. But to become a freeweight world champion, now it's out this world. I don't know myself what it feel like, but looking on at it, it's an inspiration.
It definitely is. And obviously, not that we want to sort of delve too much into your past, but obviously there was things that sort of derailed you from boxing. I guess it's like any sport in the world. Sometimes, you get to the ages of 15, 16, drink and women and everything else starts to get involved with it. For obviously people, like ourselves that don't know too much obviously about, what sort of happened in your teenage years. Can you sort of give us a wee bit of an insight as to what happened?
Yeah, well, what happened was I was at the boxing, I was doing well at the boxing, everybody knew I was doing well at the boxing. I became friends with friends, and friends were friends that I didn't know, and we grew up. And just as I thought I was making new friends, just because they thought, oh, he's doing well, blah, 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 so you make friends everywhere. So there me get sucked into this crowd, I grew up, and one thing led to another. They started fights at the weekend. I was there, we started drinking, and they were fighting, and the next minute I knew I was fighting, but they were away, and it was me who was getting into trouble for it. So then I get in trouble with the police, and then I would have a charge, and then because I had the charge, I was scared to face Rab because I knew how upset he would be and how angry he would be, because that was one of his rules, don't use what I teach you. So that was it. So it went on for there, and this is how my career took a dip, because I let Rab down and I let myself down. So I stayed away, and I always said to myself that I would get back, but when that time came, I just held back, and before you knew it, it was 5 years away, 5-6 years.
And it's easy sometimes, somebody sort of hasn't been on the wrong path. We've interviewed other boxers, not everybody's just stuck to boxing. Obviously other things have got in the way, drink or drugs or other things. It's so easy to fall in the wrong crowds, and probably, you look at probably some of the big names we've had. Obviously Mike Tyson, obviously always getting the bother with things, fame sort of took over him in ways, and probably in the football side of things, like Paul Gascoigne, obviously, and everything else,
it gets a hold of you, doesn't it? As you say, the names that you've just mentioned, they've had it all in their hands, and basically they've let it slip. So it can either make you or break you in a way.
And obviously falling in the wrong crowd sometimes can just, can derail you from what your own, like your dreams are obviously to become a professional boxer and to do that. And the next thing they make you feel as if because you're talented in your sport, you don't need to do it. This is cool to do this instead.
Well, that's it. Well, my eyes opened up to them is because I took it into my own hands to protect my friends. But when I needed my friends, they were nowhere about. And before I knew it, I lost my career. I let the most important person down that taught me everything that I know about boxing. It showed me everything as well. And for that, I would never, I won't forgive them. It still hurts for this day, but Rab's a man that when I got in touch with him again, that it was as if we never left each other. It was, you're a silly boy, blah, 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 come down the gym, we'll do this, we'll do that. We made plans, and it was as if, well, like, if I knew it was going to be that easy speaking to him, and then I would have went back down years ago, but again, 5-6 years slipped, I can't get him back now, so.
And I know from sort of looking at, some of the interviews where I've seen it, there was a couple of times, obviously, I think it was like, I'd seen you in the street and he was going, come back down to the gym. He knew how talented you were, and I guess that probably shows how much talent you had, that even when you were doing things that were wrong, he was still forgiving in the fact and going, come on down the gym, Ben, give it another go. Let's get you back in the right path. It probably showed a testament to the person that Rab was as well.
Exactly, that you've hit it in the head, definitely. It's just, but when they did say that to me, they made plans, and that's what hurt the most, because he forgave me for what I'd done, but at that time I never forgave myself. But I can't keep beating myself up about it. I can only try and make myself better. So I spoke to him and I did apologise, and Rab being Rab, listen, we all do mistakes, we're only human. He gave me a word, he gave me his word, I gave him mine. And I told him I was going to turn professional. And there Rab is, right, come down, we'll do this and we'll do that together. So we made plans to go forward. But unfortunately, obviously, the COVID and then Rab passing, so I never really got to have Rab by my side, but I'll always know that I'll have him in my corner.
Yep, and I say that's I know that you fought for a few years in the British and Irish Boxing Association. I think from 2016 to 2019. But you know, I guess everybody's obviously lost someone that's close to him at times, and it's holding on. I guess sometimes the memories, you know,
Yeah,
probably things will eat you up. You didn't probably do in making Rab proud for all the years he put into you. He's still going to be there above your corner, keeping an eye on you and making sure when things get tough, that the toughness that he taught you comes out in the ring.
correct. That's it. Well, there was one thing. Rab was I love a sport, boxing. Rab had always a believer in amateur and professional. He didn't like the white collar route and he didn't like the semi-professionals. He didn't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I was doing in the time that I didn't speak to Rab and I didn't go down. Just because I was watching a fight one night and I seen a boy that I fought in the amateurs fight and he was fighting for a British title and I was sitting quite heavy, about 16 stone, and that's what made me go back to the gym. And the gym I went to at the time, I never heard of white collar, we're doing white collar, so I was getting back into the rhythm, throwing a punch, enjoying myself, and the guy that ran the gym says, why don't you do this fight, blah blah blah. So I get roped into doing a fight. I enjoy getting punched and I like getting the punches out, and that's when it came into the white collar scene. And I started getting my ring rust back and started getting the feeling back for boxing and started liking it again. And one fight led to another. And before you knew it, I had a few white collars, and that's when I've been doing that route. And I knew when I spoke to Rab didn't like that. And it's one thing I kept back from him because I know he would have went crazy. But at
Go ahead.
At the end, I sat down and I says to him, listen, the reason why I never came down is because I've let you down. I apologise and we had a word. And I says, and another thing, I says, I've been doing some sort of fighting. I says, the fighting that you don't like, and he says, right, we won't go there. You've told me the truth. We'll move on to the next step and we'll go forward from there. So that's how that came about.
And obviously in your time and fighting for the BIBA circuit, obviously 2016 to 2019, you obviously came across a good friend of our own in Marty Case.
You be Irish leprechaun.
To be fair, he was actually obviously telling good things. Obviously, he was saying that one of the guys I think he was fighting on the card and he was doing corner for somebody, and he sort of wasn't liking the fact that somebody was throwing punches after the bell. So he said, "Look, if this happens, I'm going to be on top of it." He says, "I'm going to throw the head on you." And I think obviously the guy done at the end of the second round, and he bounced in, and I think some of the guys' corner afterwards was sort of trying to have a go, and he said that obviously you and your mates were there to obviously defend them because there's one of them two, and it probably shows the sort of person you are, looking out for somebody.
Yeah, well, me and Marty, we going well. We're really good friends, and through the BIBA route, I have made good friends. There's another one, Michael Kelly, as well. But the bit that you're talking about there was, he's a wee angry man. The wee Irish leprechaun, I call him. But yeah, he was in a fight and doing him, but the guy was being dirty, so he warned him. Marty likes a bit of a showboat himself, but Marty's like, fair enough, but you're doing hitting behind the edge, you're hitting on the break, stop it. And then one thing led to another. The guy didn't like the way he was speaking to him, so a wee kind of a brawl. Now, Marty's himself with his pal in the corner against almost 15, 20 people in the crowd and the guy in the ring. So again, that's when I jumped in and I was like, well, no, you're with him. You're not going to go fighting just one person. So we jumped in. Nothing happened at the end of it, but it got heated.
As it does do at box, but I guess sometimes that's just people's passion. It comes out to you at the end of the day.
As well, Marty loves a showboat. He likes to carry on, and he's good at his sport. But when you've got somebody like Marty complaining the opposition hitting in the back of the head, and you know that Marty's not going to sit back and let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it got a bit heated, but in the end up, it was. We still laugh at it for this day.
Aye, somebody look back on and laugh.
It's good. We talked about it.
I think Marty's got good information on every show he's sort of been to. There's always been some sort of ruckus going on somewhere, so he always seems to be around it in some way.
Marty's shorts. Ask him that one. His shorts it is.
So obviously, tell me, you know, you're obviously pending, waiting for your debut. Your debut probably should have happened March of last year, obviously before the pandemic kicked in. How did it come about getting in touch with Sam Kynoch? He's probably the leading light, and obviously Scottish promoters.
Yeah, well, myself and Sam got in contact. I had a fight with the British Boxing Board, with the British and Irish Boxing, and it was up against an ex-boxer from the British Boxing Board to control. Now, I had 2 fights with him, and it was 8 round and a 10 round. And this wasn't no walkover. This boy could box, he could hit. He was the figure on him like an action man. He was really strong. Now, I tested myself, nobody was fighting, so I fought him. First fight, 8 rounds. I won that fight. It was a brawl. And he wanted a rematch because he felt he was hard done by. It was a 10 rounder, and I fought my 10 rounder, and I won 8 rounds, 7 or 8 rounds out of 10. I schooled him, I outboxed him. Now, it was that fight then that I watched, and I keep watching it back because I was quite shocked at myself at how well I boxed, how well I could hit without getting hit against the opposition that I was in front of. Now, if I watch the first fight and I watch the second, like, he tried to overpower me and I couldn't do it. But I was silly, I stayed in too long. But then again, I looked back and I trained and then I boxed. And looking back at that, I went, I've still got that boxing ability in me. I could do well. And I don't want to waste what I've got with the road I'm going down now. So I got in contact with Sam and I said, Sam, listen, I'm carrying a bit of weight. Is there any chance if I can get a meeting with you and see if I can sign with you? So me and Sam got a meeting, and Sam says, listen, I'm not going to lie, Ben, your weight's an issue, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, you've said it before that you've got to lose weight, and if not, I says, right, okay. I say, he's like, I'll do you a deal. If you can get down to, I think it was about 16 stone at the time, he says, if you can get down to light heavyweight, I'll sign you. I says, right, well, I'll do one better. I'll go down to super middle. I says, and I'll come back to you. He's like, super middle? I says, aye. I says, that's how much I want it, because after watching that fight, I know I've still got it in me. He says, right, okay, we've got a deal. 9-10 weeks later, maybe I'm back to Sam. He says, there you go, I'm ready. And he was shocked at the fact of the weight loss and how determined I was and how hungry I was for it. So we done the meeting, we got the British Boxing Board meeting, we got we done the medicals, we passed everything. I had my debut in March. The week, I think the lockdown kicked in on the Monday. I was meant to be fighting on the Saturday of March, and that's where it get put on hold.
And sort of when you see that, you know, when you lose, I think 3.5 stone you lost.
3.5 stone it was, yeah.
When you see you lost the weight, and obviously, you know, getting so close to it, and then it's sort of going off, were you sort of thinking to yourself, is this ever going to happen?
Aye, well, I was at that time, I was in the best shape of my life. Getting into my debut with the British Boxing Board of Control, because I was determined, and although I'm 33, well, I was 32 then, but I've got the head on my shoulders that I know that I'm not going to be silly, and I'm not going to cheat, and I'm not going to have bad meals, and I'm not going to be out drinking. I've got the head on my shoulders now that I know I need to put in the hard work to get the rewards, and I know I've got the tools there to do it. So that's what I've been doing. I've put my head down, I've stuck to the gym, and I was training like in. I had a 12-week camp, sure, and I got down to 12.5 stone for my fight. 76, I'm sure it was. And obviously it got cancelled, but again, I stayed in the gym after that. I got struck down with a sciatica that made me, it put me out of the gym for about 8 to 12 weeks. I gained another 1.5 stone, obviously, because I was bedbound for the 6 weeks of that. But again, after that, I got rid of that. I went straight back into the gym and I lost that 1.5 stone. So I'm in and out of the gym every day, working towards my goals.
And I guess, you know, like for any sort of boxer, obviously the pandemic sort of, you know, unless you're a big name or obviously really good pals with obviously the promoters you're involved with, you know, if you're Matchroom or MTK or Frank Warren, you'd no chance of getting a fight. So how obviously tough was it to keep yourself motivated during the lockdown and seeing everybody else fighting?
It was really tough, but I've already let myself down once, so in my head I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to go to Sam and say I'll do this just so when I get a bump in the road I can go, I'll get up. I've worked too hard to get up. I've promised Sam. I've let too many people down in my life before, so now I've got a head on my shoulders to say I'm 100% focused. I'm going for what I want. And this is what I'm doing, so I'm not going to let Sam down, I'm not going to let anybody around me or my team down. So whether I don't get a fight next month or the month after, it doesn't matter. I'll still stay in the gym until that time comes.
And is it sort of one of these things now where you look at it and you go, I wish I could have told my 20-year-old self, you know, what you are now. And I guess, you know, time goes on and experience of life, I guess sometimes you look back and things and go, I wish I hadn't done this at this age. You know, if I was at 20 years of age, you know, I wish I'd have been as I am now. But life experience sometimes probably gets you to the stage of where you are, and you can't buy that experience at an early age.
It does, yeah. You're right there. Well, if I had the head on my shoulders right now than I did back then, I wouldn't have been in the situation I'm in just now. I would actually be, well, I would say probably sitting back retired. Happy.
Like most of the people you box amateur with, they're all retired now, and you're still.
They're all retired. It's, people say to me, why don't you just give up? Because I love it, and I regret not doing it back then. I regret a lot of things, but one thing I won't regret is what I'm doing just now. Age is only a number. I'm 33. People say they're coming to the end, correct? But until the end, that's when I'll say the gloves are up. But now, this is the start of my career. I'll work my arse off until I get to the end, and I'll see how far I can go. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to be world champion because I know that's insane, it's crazy. But what I will say is I'm going out there to tackle anybody. We are undefeated, they've not been undefeated, and I'll take anybody with a title.
And it's sort of, it's, you know, at 33, you can't sort of, you know, you use journeyman sort of to build experience because you have, you know, you throw of time in your side sort of thing. So it's sort of, you maybe get one warm-up fight and then they get used to obviously being back in the ring properly again, and then it's right, how can I get a fight with? And I guess probably being a Scotsman, obviously you're going to be vocal, and you know the fact that going, you know, like we see a lot of it at times where fighters call people out and it's just for media. You're going to have to call fighters out to get a fight. You know, you sort of have to get yourself sort of noticed.
Definitely. Well, I've already said this in the previous interviews. I'm not here to be a journeyman. I'm here to be me. I'm not here to say, right, I'm going to jump in just to get beat. I'm going in to take their head off. I'm going in there to win. I'm not just turning up for a payday, and I'm not turning up just to make a show of myself. I'm going in there the best shape that I can and the fittest I can, and I'm going in there to be. Well, I'll always go in as an underdog. I prefer that because I've no pressure on me. But when I came out of that ring, people will start noticing who I am because I'm not somebody that's just going to go and say, right, that's a good money fight. I'm not interested in money. I'm just interested to get in there, knowing at the level I'm at and making a statement and causing a few upsets. Because I do believe that if you give me the fights that I look for, then you've got a fight in your hands.
Yep, definitely. That's all you need. And I know Sam's obviously linked up with, I think, Warren Boxing Management as well. So they're going to be showing some of the fight cards on the new Fight Zone channel as well.
Fight Zone, yeah. Well, he's connected with a good few people as well. So just before there, I tried to, through lockdown, I was trying to get a fight with that John Hedges. Now, I was mailing him on Instagram as well. Listen, we can get it on. Super middleweight, blah, blah, blah. You're looking for a fight. You're 1-0. I'm wanting to fight. I can't get a fight in Scotland. And he's like, I'm interested. So I looked at his, like, Sam's management messaged his management, and apparently it was all like, aye, we're going for it. Next minute we're waiting a phone call. Boom, he moved up to light heavyweight. That's the chance we've got. Do you know what I mean? You're calling people out. Now, I'm not a person to call people out, but as you say, it's something I need to do. So I'm doing it, and I'm not saying he moved up because I asked to fight him. But what I'm saying is, he could have, rather than fight somebody with no wins and 5 losses, he could have fought somebody with on a debut, and his record would have looked that bit better. Do you know what I mean? If he won, but he knows that he wouldn't have won. He knows that I would have put him out cold.
Maybe you come in as a debut, and maybe I know Idris Virgo obviously is sort of like to have a bit of a padded record, sort of disrespecting fighters that are journeymen and everything else. So maybe that's the sort of person you need to call out. You know, he sees that you don't have any fights and sort of, you know, puts it to him then.
That's it. Well, I'm still waiting on my debut. Now, Sam spoke to me. We've got a possible date. As yet, we don't know, but we've got a date and a venue. A venue. We've just not got a date. But I says to Sam, I don't want somebody that's got, no disrespect, I know they're in it for a living, but if somebody's got 2 fights with 51 losses and 7 draws, I don't want that. No disrespect to them. I want somebody with something like 2 wins, 1 draw, or 3 wins, 1 loss. Somebody like that. Somebody that I know that I can test myself. Somebody that I know that I'm getting in, and I'm not just going to take my eye off the ball because I've got 1 win, 50 losses. I want to know that I'm getting in here to fight somebody that's want to take my head off as much as what I want to take theirs.
Exactly. You want to make a statement straight away from the start, and
correct. I want to notice
somebody with a positive record, so you can rise up the ranks quicker and obviously get fights.
I want to be as busy as possible, and I want to be as noticed as quick as I can. And if that means that I need to fight top quality fighters, then I do believe that's where I should be at the minute. I believe on my day, a top quality fighter would struggle to beat me. I've got too much heart and too much belief to let them beat me. I know where I should have been, and I'm not. But this is my time to grab it with both hands, and I'm going to grab it.
Exactly.
I've gave you a chance.
It's just getting in there and getting the gloves on for the first time and getting that first fight, and then obviously everything all fall into place.
Well, that's it. Hopefully it won't be long now, but again, you never know. But it's the names, isn't it? It's the names at super middleweight, so you need to have a look and say, I want that one and I want that one. But it's whether they look at me and say he's not had a pro debut, so they might look at me as if they're too good for me. As you say, when like you didn't know who I was in the boxing game. Now, that's why so they won't know who I am either. They'll just think I'm in it for the money, or just in it to make a quick buck. Do you know what I mean? But they won't know that I'm in it to take their head off their shoulders and make a statement and go on in my career.
Yep, exactly. And I guess sometimes the less you're known, the bigger the danger you possess, because they're not going to have any footage they're going to see of you is when you're 3.5 stone heavier.
Yes.
And if you want them to watch that footage, because obviously you probably 3.5 stone heavier.
Yeah.
Last year, second. You 3.5 stone heavier probably aren't the fighter that you are now.
No, definitely, and that's one of the reasons why they're still up, because they can look up whatever they want. They can look up Ben McGivern that done the white collar. They can look up Ben McGivern done BIBA. They can look up Ben McGivern hitting the pads and the bags. 5 years ago. That's not Ben McGivern. Ben McGivern's me. Ben McGivern's the guy that's coming in at 12.5 stone, 76 kilograms. Ben McGivern's the one that's coming in to outbox you, possibly knock you out with the power I'm carrying and cause upsets.
Yeah, wherever you go. So, sort of looking at, I guess obviously you've probably some of the newer breed of boxers, obviously in Scotland, they probably, still Ricky Burns sort of knocking about. But obviously we're 9 days away from potentially Josh Taylor making history in Scotland, in America.
Yeah.
He obviously takes on Ramirez for obviously all the belts at 140. It's sort of, you've obviously Josh and you've Lee McGregor there as well. I know you know very well. But he's sort of seeing the newer breed coming through and is sort of helping to reignite the fire for yourself.
It is, yeah. Well, I can't take it away from the young lads. They're doing amazing now. Scottish boxing is up there. You had Ricky Burns flying the flag for many years, and he's done fantastic, more than fantastic. But you've got Josh Taylor, you've got Lee McGregor. Do you know what I mean? That's only two names now that you can say boxing in Scotland now it's up there with the best. Josh Taylor's got to make history, and he's got to do it in style. I believe in the later rounds he'll stop Ramirez. Lee McGregor, I think, is frightening. I've seen Lee in the gym spar, doing the pads, and seen progress through while he's over America. And then you've got Cash Fruit. You've got Cash Fruit again. He's unbelievable talent. So Scottish boxing now is flying, and you've got young prospects coming up as well. So, what more can you ask for?
The future's great.
Back then it was just back in my day it was like Ricky Burns, Alex Harfer, and now you've got Lee McGregor, Josh Taylor, Joe Ham, Cash Fruit. Do you know what I mean? So you've got a great team of them.
And we share a similar passion as well. Obviously, I've seen in one of your tweets you're a big Carl Frampton fan as well.
Yeah. Carol Frampton. I love it. I love the way Carol Frampton put his heart and soul into everything, every training camp, every fight. He's got a heart of gold and all. I watched Carol Frampton where he spoke with James English. He spoke very open, and there's stuff in there that you're like, wow, things that he's seen back home and what he's achieved as well. It's amazing.
Obviously, Scotland's on the verge of obviously more greats coming ahead, and obviously Northern Ireland and Ireland as a whole has obviously lost probably one of our greats and probably now looking for a new one. So,
well, you've got, as I say, you've just obviously lost retirement, Carol Frampton, but then you've got Michael Conlon coming up as well. So, I think he's on obviously his age, he believes, but I believe he will become a world champion soon. And again, Ireland's just like Scotland. They've got great boxers over there, and they're all warriors, and they'll leave everything in that ring. Again, I'm glad. When I was amateur, I actually boxed a boy for the Golden Gloves, and I actually got to know a few of them over there. They've got a heart of gold as well. They look after each other. That's what I like about them. It's a very close community.
Yeah, definitely. And I say it's a pedigree. Sometimes you need to be a boxer, and wanting to be friends with people and being open and being letting people sort of enjoy your own passion, sort of the sport, and to inspire others.
Well, that's it. It's, again, I actually just looked at when I was on Twitter as well. I've seen tennis and McKenna going to be going to that for. That would be a cracking fight as well. But again, Tennyson was meant to be fighting. Tennyson was meant to be fighting Ricky. I don't know what happened with that. Sorry, 2 seconds, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, that's my wee boys.
I'm not sure what happened with that fight, but I guess obviously it's one of these things that if it was going to happen, it's going to happen. Probably hard for Ricky Burns to obviously fight with Tennyson at that magnitude of that's end of his career. You know, obviously Tennyson punches is like a mule.
Yeah, I was when I seen that fight coming up, I was like, God, I would like to see Ricky fight back in Glasgow. I wouldn't like to see Ricky fighting an up and coming powerhouse, where a great fighter. Just he carries a lot of power. Ricky can also take a punch, but coming at the end of his career, it was a very, very tough fight and a tough ask. I just didn't want to see Ricky going out with a bad ending. I would like to see him fight at home with a crowd, because I do believe it would be a night that you'll never forget.
Definitely is. So we always leave the sort of interviews with an opportunity to obviously thank sponsors and obviously people that's helping you along the way. Is there anybody you'd like to give a big shout outs to?
Yeah, I would. I've actually got one on. Maximum Strength in Hamilton. They've actually supported me from the start, providing me with gym equipment, a full gym membership, all my supplies. Also, I would like to thank Plaston Perfect for their support. Trying to think now.
Put you in the spot sometimes, you don't want to.
You have, yeah. People will be watching this like, me. God, sorry, I can't. Honestly, I can't handle it.
I'm sure it's just that you're put in the spot. Sometimes you forget them. Sometimes, you know, but I'm sure. I'm sure people will be looking at it and they go, "We understand that you're not going to remember everybody's straight away," you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's it. And also, I'd like to thank Kynoch Boxing for giving me the opportunity to show off my skills and give me the chance to keep throwing punches.
Definitely is. But listen, Ben, obviously, we'll thank you obviously for coming on and sharing obviously your story with us.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, we'll be keeping an eye out on your social medias for some fight news coming. You definitely got another fan in ourselves watching you, and hopefully watching this can keep an eye out on your own career as well, because you give them some inspiration in some way.
Definitely. Hopefully that's what I would like to do. For people to look at it and say, don't do what he done. Stick in at it and go as far as you can go. Don't. Every bump in the road, sometimes it helps, but just if you have a bump, continue going forward. Don't let it go that way.
Definitely. But Ben, listen, obviously, thanks very much for your time. We'll hopefully get another catch up again with you soon.
Magic, that's great.
All right, Ben, cheers, take care.
Thank you, cheers, take care.
Thanks, bye-bye.